Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. I know we focus on Tesla's market share for EVs and how well it's doing. We also focus on other various market shares like how the Chinese EVs are going and compare it to Tesla. We use EV market share as one metric on how we measure Tesla's success. But this is a very two-dimensional view on Tesla and how Tesla is so different from all the other EVs in that pie. Remember, Elon is playing 3D chess and a pie chart is 2D. Tesla don't have missions like other companies such as 10% market share by 2025. Tesla has missions like help move the world to sustainable energy. That's quite the difference. Now every year there are perhaps almost 80 million new vehicle sales, yet something like 2 billion vehicles on the roads. Every year, new cars account for about 4% of the total global fleet. There are two options here, you see. One is perhaps Tesla achieve a 10% market share for new autos, and they might be selling 8 million vehicles a year. That would be 8 million more EVs added to the roads, and somewhat 8 million fewer ICE vehicles off the roads. But even 8 million a year compared to 2 billion total vehicles, or less than 0.5% of the global fleet replaced every year, this is not a feasible mission. Even if all the other market share of new autos was 100% electric, this would still take decades to replace. Even with the help of governments and competition, it will be a slow transition. Therefore, selling new cars is not the most efficient way of Tesla achieving its mission. Tesla's hardware takes so long to ramp up when compared to, say, Apple's. It will simply take too long until Tesla and all other EV manufacturers replace the entire global fleet. A lot of money will flood into that industry and prices of fossil fuels will likely rise, putting more pressure on electric and renewables. It will still all take a lot of time. Therefore, Tesla wants to leverage this as much as possible to find a way that will have the most impact the fastest. So yeah, you've guessed it, Tesla's robotaxis will be the most efficient, feasible and quickest way we know of transitioning the world from fossil fuels. If each robotaxi replaces 5 ICE vehicles. If Tesla really think it's possible before or even soon after 2025, then I understand, go for it. And of course, it's just so profitable. It can fund so much of the rest of the mission. It would be more than enough income to fund everything Tesla wants to do. Tesla are not competing against new BMWs. Tesla are competing against used BMWs and used Fords and Toyotas. Tesla are offering robotaxis as a lower cost form of transport compared to even owning a used car, except of a higher standard. But of course the main feature is that it drives itself and you can just use your phone during the entire journey or even watch Netflix. The legacy autos can go ahead and make all the cool EVs they want. There could be a good market for them, as it's possible Tesla may not even sell to the public anymore. Tesla might have been bluffing the whole way. They forced Legacy to make EVs, and the Legacy customers have spoken and said yes, that's what we want, electric Hyundais, and perhaps eventually they'll be able to get more range from their cars. And they may adopt Tesla FSD and superchargers. Tesla are not trying to be a part of the 80 million vehicles a year new auto industry. Tesla wants to replace as much of the 2 billion vehicle fleet as quickly as possible. Get it? Rather than slowly replacing new ICE cars that are generally relatively fuel efficient compared to much older vehicles still on the road, Tesla is replacing these much older vehicles that are doing more damage to the environment. Robotaxis will need to be ubiquitous for people to replace their vehicles, and they must arrive to you in most areas in perhaps as quickly as a minute or two. Due to the lower cost of running a robotaxi compared to a normal taxi, it is feasible to have a lot more robotaxis per capita. If a robotaxi replaces 5 vehicles, then perhaps a robotaxi is feasible enough to have one robotaxi between 5 customers. Tesla may even arrange it so that you get to ride in the same robotaxi as much as possible and share the same taxi with just 4 other users, or at least use as few robotaxis as possible. It would be more hygienic and likely mean that the passenger will look after the robotaxi better if they're going to be in it again and again. I'm hoping that in as many nations as possible, eventually when robotaxis proliferate that far around the world, many people will choose to pool in them. If there was even 2 people in each vehicle, then that could replace 10 cars. We talk about leverage. Well, a robotaxi is the leverage of removing 5 ICE vehicles off the road. Then pooling in robotaxis with 4 people in the car is the equivalent of potentially 20 vehicles off the road per robotaxi. Perhaps Tesla will try to heavily encourage pooling in some nations where pollution is bad. If robotaxis could replace 10 vehicles per robotaxi on an average global scale, including other various efficiencies after years of advancements, then from that 2 billion fleet, suddenly Tesla only need 200 million vehicles total. Okay, I am simplifying that a great deal, but you get what I am implying. Tesla are not going for the 20 million a year sales. They're going for the other 2 billion car owners. Of that 2 billion, it's possible that a robotaxi might be capable of replacing 1 billion of those. If the average driver drove 10,000 miles a year, then that would be 10 trillion miles. If Tesla made 30 cents a mile, that's $3 trillion a year. It's these older cars that do more damage to the environment anyway. They also have a higher running cost. It all makes perfect sense the more I think about it. Tesla are trying to make 1 or 200 million vehicles as quickly as possible. Elon has spooked the entire auto industry and made them Osborne and cannibalize their ICE business. Some of them may make the transition, but Tesla don't care. Tesla were never a car company. Get it? What we've been saying all along? Tesla is not a car company. It's just valued like one. Tesla is a robotics AI company, or something more along those lines, we all say. Well, here you go. This is Tesla being a robotic AI company, not a car company. If Tesla were making 20 million robotaxis a year, then it would only take 10 years until they were 200 million. Robotaxis make everything sound that much more possible. Now we just need to hope Tesla has worked out how they're going to get all that extra energy to power these vehicles. Of course, boring tunnels make robotaxis potentially 10 times more valuable in some areas. Imagine a robotaxi that can get from one side of New York to the other in a few minutes. For a start, consider how much extra people would pay for that too. I've said it before, that boring company could be more valuable than Tesla, and this is the reason. Imagine a tool that adds 10 times, even more, value to robotaxis. It's incomprehensible. How has Tesla and Boring added this much value to a company and economy? Well, like we said, imagine if you can get a robotaxi from your house somewhere in a large busy city and then get taken right to the city centre and dropped outside the shop you wanted within perhaps 10 minutes, a trip that would have normally taken perhaps an hour, including parking, and cost a lot, let alone the cost of owning a car. Boring tunnels and robotaxis make the world closer. We would just have to hope Boring Company does more and finds a way to tunnel faster, and then a way to make a lot of these boring machines. Robotaxis will most likely be successful in cities where populations are more dense, and slowly spread out to less densely populated areas. Living in a city, it can cost a lot to own and run a car. Robotaxi would be incredibly convenient. There is, of course, a lot more value in robotaxis within a city. Anyway, it sounds like Tesla have about 100 times more 3s and Ys to make. Then maybe we might see a new model launch. Sorry if Tesla wasn't quite as exciting a company as you hoped, with insane bulletproof vehicles or cars that can fly to 60 miles an hour within 1 second. It would be nice to at least get a demo perhaps, but Tesla is an engineering company and they like to show or tell us things that they can and have done that are physically possible. Remember, 3D chess, or 4D as some people also like to say, but I don't think the number of dimensions matter a great deal. Elon is a great illusionist, misdirecting the competition, so much so that he was only pretending they were the competition in the first place. But it ended up forcing them to make EVs. Elon has a much bigger mission in a much bigger market. Imagine every car you make earning every year the same it cost to produce in the first place. That is an amazing return. Tesla's mission was to transition the world to sustainable energy. If Tesla trick a bunch of legacy companies into moving out of fossil fuels a lot earlier, then that all aligns with the mission. Tesla doesn't have to do it all themselves. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.